Welcome back to another reading and correcting of A Wasteful Death. With me, Kindar, the Tiger Writes, and Ty, the Tiger Supervisor. Today, we are doing Chapter 6. The scheduled meeting time was early enough to let Marlot and Trembor miss the traffic rush that came with the start of evening shift. Alicon owned Sharptooth Pharma, and like most of the large pharma company, was located in the middle of the city, which turned the area into a zone of towering glass building. The pharmas made most of the product that made everyone's life a little easier. Alsacon's company specialized in making fur care product. Marlowe had been surprised to find the fur wash they'd used in the morning was made by Sharptooth. With a number of furred species, just in this city alone, most of them with slightly different needs, Alicon, why did I go Alci? Alicon was very successful. His company ranked in the top 30 in the country. Trembor presented his ID to the guard in the underground parking lot's entrance. They were let through. He parked in the first available spot because Marlot insisted. And walk to the elevator from here, Wolf said. I can find us a closer spot. Look around, the place full. It's going to be faster just to walk from here than for you to find something closer. Trembor grumbled, but finally agreed. Marlowe looked at all the buttons on the panel before pressing the one for the top floor. Why is it that all these successful companies build tall buildings and then put the president's office at the top of it? It dates back to the olden days, Trembor said as the door closed. Kings always had a tower that was built high enough they could see the whole of their kingdom from it. Marlowe eyed the lion. How do you know that? Trembor puffed his chest a little without realizing it. My ancestors were kings. Really? When? Marlowe's face had a trace of disbelief on it, but it was mostly full of curiosity. From frown, trying to remember the details from his father's story. 7, 8 centuries ago, I think. Our line was almost wiped out during a revolt. We haven't held power since then. Trevor was silent, watching the numbers change on the display. I think you should try to become a king again, he said suddenly. You'd be excellent at it. He turned to look at the lion, licking his lip. After all, you rule over my body expertly. Trembor stared at him, mouth open. He never thought his wolf would be this explicit. He regained control of his mouth, but the door opened before he could form a comeback. Alicon's reception area was large, much larger than theirs, and much nicer. The carpet was green and thick, making Marlot wish he could take off his shoes and dig his toes in. The chairs were large and inviting. The walls were a mix of brown and dark green, while the ceiling was light blue. It reminded Marlot of the forested land north of his hometown. He smiled. The young female coyote behind the desk smiled at them, her large ears perking up cutely. I'm really sorry, but Mr. Sharptooth has been delayed. I hope you don't mind waiting until he arrives. Not at all, Trembor replied, and Marlot headed for one of the chairs, looking forward to sinking into them. Before he reached them, the other elevator door opened, and an older, lean cheetah stepped out, holding a suitcase. You must be the RIs, Golden Mane and Blackclaw, he said in a deep voice. I'm Alicon Sharptooth. Please accept my apologies for the delay. He took both their hands and guided them to his office. Young Wolf decided to hunt a sheep on the platform and didn't expect the other sheep to come to their friend's defense. Caution made me miss the train. I must say, Alicon said once the door were closed. I must say, Alicon said once the door were closed, I'm surprised to see two RIs working together. I've always thought Register's investigator were quite territorial. Trembor threw Marlot a grin. You get that a lot. He sat in the offered chair. Marlot sat in the other one, his tail slipping into the open slot for it. He almost moaned in delight as his body sank in the soft padding. The sound of chuckling made him open his eyes. Alicon was the one chuckling and looking at him strangely. Sorry, Marlot says. I have to get one of these for the office. The lion gave Marlot another look before taking his pad out and setting it to record. Placed it on the desk. I want to thank you for seeing us, especially on such short notice. I hope you don't mind me saying this, but you seem rather unaffected by Aiden Spotted Fur's death. Alicon intertwined his fingers and set his hands on the desk. The relationship between Aiden and I was purely professional. I don't let the mating contract fool you. We didn't feel any affection for each other. The contract was for a cub, correct? Carlo was seated very comfortably, but his face was completely serious now. Yes. In that, her death has affected me very much. Finding a female with pure lineage was difficult. These days, almost everyone has someone from a different genus mixed in. I don't relish having to start my search again. I didn't see any clause in the contract pertaining to what part she was to play in raising the cub. Remember, that's because once the cub was born, it was to become mine alone. Nodded. When was the last time you saw her? 5 days ago, for our weekly mating. Alicon's tone was matter of fact. How long have you been trying to conceive? Marlot asked. I contracted her 4 years ago. Marlot sat up, or stared at the cheetah. 4 years and she still hasn't become pregnant? Marlot glanced at his partner. It seemed he hadn't noted the contract's date when he read it. He looked back to Alicon before he could reply. An acquaintance of Aiden's stated that you were demanding and controlling. Is that why? The cheetah looked at him and took a moment before answering. You're still young, so you probably don't know how it is. But when you reach my age, you seriously start thinking about having someone to leave your legacy to. I spent 2 years looking for the right female before finding Aiden. She agreed to my term, I agreed to hers, and we met on a weekly. We met every week to mate. Or stared. And you didn't look for someone else when it was evident she wasn't becoming pregnant? Alicon shook his head. I don't think you understand just how difficult it is to find someone pure-blooded these days. Most everyone is an ancestor of a different species. My line is pure, and I intend to keep it that way. Ember's lips tightened, back his comment. Like I said, it was only business. I wasn't in such a hurry, I couldn't afford for it to take time. Alicon smiled, his gaze distant for a moment before refocusing on them. And that's not to say we didn't enjoy ourselves. Aiden was very talented, and I like to think my years of experience taught her a thing or two. When I found out she'd been using anti-pregnancy medication, I was hurt and, yes, angry. I confronted her, hesitated. In the moment of anger, I hit her. Yes, I made demands on her at that point. I forced her to get weekly tests to ensure she was off the medication. I took some of my anger out on her during our next session, but she didn't press charges. How long ago was that? The cheetah consulted his pad. 5 months ago. Trembor looked at Alcyon. Didn't you think it was strange that she never got pregnant during that time? I did, but she brought me her health report every 6 months. They showed everything was fine, so I figured we simply didn't have any luck with the timing. Only by accident I found out they were falsified report. I'd misplaced the last report she gave me, so I contacted the medical office directly to get another copy, only to find out she'd never been there. Did you know about Talema? Marlot asked. Alicon frowned. Jackal, well-built, still at the academy. Oh, you mean her toy. Yes, I knew about him. It was specified in the contract that she could have them. Marlot nodded. Did you know she'd gotten pregnant? He asked casually. The cheetah stared at Marlot. What do you mean, pregnant? Marlot ignored the glare Trembor threw at him. There aren't many things I can mean by that. Alicon's face lit up. She was pregnant? He whispered, then looked at him in broad smile. We finally did it. How's the cub? Trembor growled at Marlot, looked at him back at him unimpressed. Alicon looked from one to the other, lost his smile. What? Trembor tore his gaze away from the wolf, his face softened as he looked at the cheetah. The cub didn't survive. I'm sorry. What? How? She'd been dead for 3 days before the enforcers were contacted. Alicon buried his face in his hand. His body shook as he sobbed. Trembor threw an accusatory glance at Tarbell. What about the killer? Alcyone asked through clenched teeth. His eyes were still wet, but they were hard. We're doing everything we can to find him, Marlot answered. The cheetah glared at him. What can I do to help? Trembor took his pad and stood. We appreciate your offer, but we have this. The look he gave the wolf, as well as the nod toward the door, made it clear Marlot was to head that way now. Alcyone stood and shook the lion's hand with both of his. He looked him in the eyes. I want to know when you've got him. I'm going to want a piece of him. I'll make sure you're informed, Trembor replied. The cheetah released it. As he passed, the wolf waiting for him at the door. As he passed the wolf waiting for him by the door. He grabbed his arm and pulled him to the elevator, almost threw him in when the door opened. That was kind of callous, or growled in anger. The door closed. He kept his back to Marlot as he pressed the button for the parking. We needed to know if he knew about the cub, the wolf replied in a firm tone. It was the only way to find out if he was involved or not. Well, you smelled the surprise and shock off of him. Now you know. The lion snapped and then was sullen. Marlot didn't say anything, sure how to react to the anger in the tone. When Trembor spoke again, his tone was soft, but even a little sad. Families are precious, Marl. You can't just dangle that hope in front of a male trying to build one and then yank it away. Marlot was silent for a moment. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hurt him. He hesitantly put a hand on the lion's back. Or you. I didn't realize you wanted a family. Trembor looked over his shoulder, giving him a small smile, then turned to face him. I have my family. I have you, my father and mothers, my brothers and sisters, nephews and niece. But you have to understand, cubs are precious. They aren't tools for you to use to get a reaction out of the suspect. They are what makes us families. I know. Marlot looked at the floor. I'm sorry. Understand. Or Cupped is muzzled. Cupped is muzzled? Muzzle. With a hand and kissed his forehead. Thank you for saying that, even if you don't understand. He hugged Marlot tartly as the door opened. The wolf squirmed in the lion's arm. Someone might see, pleaded. Trembor moved a foot to prevent the doors from closing. Tough. This is your penance for what you did upstairs. He kept hugging him for a long minute, and as soon as he released him, Marlot was quick to straighten himself out, was smiling. So, where do we look for suspect? Trembor asked as they walked to his car. Marlot's shoulders slumped as he thought about it. Going to have to go through our list of old lovers, he said, dejected. Stopped and turned to him. Something wrong? Marlot sighed. Not really, but it won't be pretty. Aiden was a prowler. Brown, what's that? Prowlers are people who go for young ones. Most of them are females going after males who are just about to become fertile. They use them until they get bored and then throw them away. Females like her tend to leave a trail of broken males behind them. The jackal told you that? Marlot sighed. No, he doesn't know what she was. I recognized the signs from what he said. Trembor looked at him, a strange expression on his face. You've seen that kind of stuff done before we met? Marlot looked away. Only once. Started walking again. To me. Trembor stood there, stunned. This is chapter 6 of A Wasteful Death. If you are enjoying this, please leave a like. If you read the whole book, as well as the other in the series, they are available on all major e-retailer. If you want to support me, that's on my Patreon, where you can also get access to basically everything I've written. And if you want to listen to me do these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch. The links are in the notes. And with that, I shall wish you a good day.